Boom shakalaka, how many Bitcoin do you need to retire? In today's episode, we've got two brand new charts that are going to prove all the old theories wrong. Stay tuned. What's up everyone, Randall here from Crypto Love. You know, if you're looking for a Bitcoin retirement strategy, as I think we all are, then you are definitely in the right place with this video. Because in today's video, we're going to take a look at some brand new Bitcoin retirement price charts to figure out exactly how many Bitcoin you need. As a matter of fact, we're going to do it for a few different age and retirement strategies. And best of all, we'll give you the chart at the end. Now, before we get into it, guys, like the video, join us on Twitter with your Crypto Love, and of course, subscribe to the OG Bitcoin and Crypto YouTube channel, making daily videos since 2017. You know, as a matter of fact, if you go back and look at the YouTube videos, the first ever video I made back in August of 2017, where I've been making videos pretty much every day since then, was Bitcoin to $500,000. And at that time, it seemed like a figment of our imagination, not even a possibility. You can go watch that video and see that it seemed, hey, maybe it could happen, but most likely unrealistic. Now, as Bitcoin approaches $100,000 per Bitcoin, it appears like a $500,000 Bitcoin is even more possible. So we're going to take a look at a few scenarios for how many Bitcoin you need to retire. And most likely we're going to do this video pretty quick, so you don't need to wait around for 20-30 minutes to figure out the answer. Now, before you go and plop a whole bunch of money into Bitcoin, it should be noted that if we take a look at the Bitcoin investor tool over on Check on Chain, it looks like Bitcoin is still in the middle of the cycle, not at the top, which is the 2-year SMA times 5, right now at $240,000, which has hit every single top previously, and also not at the bottom from $15,000 to $30,000 this cycle, but we're somewhere in the middle, which tells us there's probably a little ways to go on the cycle. And when you're going to buy Bitcoin, a lot of people will tell you dollar cost average, but you know what? They haven't done the research. There's actually this article by Daniel Simmering down here from 2019 where he did Python modeling to take a look at this, and it turns out that if we take a look at it on a log scale, most days you're better off just buying Bitcoin straight out. So of the Bitcoin history up to 2019, these days in red are the days where you're better off just plopping your money into Bitcoin. In green, these are the days when you're better off dollar cost averaging. So what he found out that if you count up all the red and green days, it turns out 27% of the days are green, which means you should dollar cost average. 73% of the time in red, you're better off investing all at once. So in summary, down here at the bottom, he says most but not all the time you get better future returns if you buy Bitcoin all at once. However, dollar cost averaging does work better if you're buying during a bear market or if the price is already some way up a large vertical rise. Now you have to decide for yourself if we are already a large way up a vertical rise, but he does add that dollar cost averaging is psychologically easier. So if in doubt, dollar cost average and be happy. And I can agree, I've been dollar cost averaging Bitcoin since I first found out about it, and it's the easiest strategy ever because you just accumulate it independent of whatever the price is. So that brings us to our first chart. Now I said some brand new charts. The second chart we're going to take a look at is brand spanking new from January 8th. This one is only kind of new or old from May 30th of 2024, depending upon how you define new and old. Now, if we take a look, this takes a look at the quantity of Bitcoin needed to retire with median US family income. If we take a look at this and using the 4% rule, spending 4% of your assets your initial year of retirement and then adjusting for inflation each year going forward. Now, they take a look at Bitcoin price. This is also from APSK32 over on Twitter. And take a look at the median US family income. Now you can see this goes up and this kind of follows this log trajectory. Now, if we combine both of those, it turns out that if we take 4% of quantity times price, that would equal the income using this formula up here. Well, depending upon what you're waiting for, how many Bitcoin you actually need to retire. Now, as of right now in 2024, 52.4 Bitcoin. But this chart here actually refutes that. So if you wait a little bit longer to retire, this was if you're going to retire in 2024. This 2028, you would only need 12 Bitcoin to retire, 2032, 4 Bitcoin to retire, 2036, 2.29, and then probably 2040, 1 Bitcoin to retire or less. So there's that. But that's not very specific. This chart here is actually extremely specific. Takes a look at how many Bitcoin you need to retire today based on your age down here on the bottom, the age you want to retire, and also how much you actually want to make per year, which is awesome. So this shows the amount of Bitcoin needed to cover retirement costs at different ages, future retirement costs adjusted for 7% annual inflation starting from 2025, and the Bitcoin price modeled using the 50th percentile power law regression, which is this right here, which puts price and time both on power laws. And you can see that Bitcoin just climbs this very nice straight up that chart. So a few things before we get started on this chart with the assumptions you should know if you're looking at this. So 1, future Bitcoin price is projected by 50th percentile power law model. 2, everyone dies at age 100. 3, money supply grows at constant rate of 7% CAGR, meaning whichever colored line you choose accounts for 7% inflation from today to your retirement year and beyond. The Bitcoin needed today amounts to represent the minimum amount to prevent your Bitcoin stack from hitting 0 by age 100. This is meant to be a minimum target, and therefore the individual should determine how much additional buffer Bitcoin they should target. 5, assumes a constant withdrawal rate in real 2025 USD terms, meaning the only increase year to year is offset the 7% inflation. And 6, assumes no taxes will exist on withdrawals, because hey, wouldn't that be cool? So all of those assumptions taken, let's take a look at a few scenarios. So I made a few scenarios. One is the young kid who just wants to retire normal age on Bitcoin. How many Bitcoin do you need to hodl if you're 20 and then retire at 65 and never have to think about retirement ever again? The next one is a 30-year-old. Maybe they just found out about this like FIRE revolution. They want to be financially independent, retire early. But realistically, maybe the next 5-10 years it's not possible. How about 25 years at 55? They could retire a little bit early before they have both hips replaced. They can go and tour Italy. You know, that's scenario 2. Scenario 3 would be a 50-year-old still looking to retire at normal time, 65. And the last scenario would be kind of the last ditch effort. The person in their 60s, they want to retire around 65. And you can see the first scenario, you would hodl for 45 years, the second scenario for 25, and the third scenario for 15 years, and the fourth scenario for 5 years. So let's take a look at all these scenarios, because it is quite interesting how shockingly few Bitcoin you need to scrape up in order to be able to retire. Because I should just add that infinity divided by 21 million is still infinity. So this is the price that Bitcoin is approaching. How long it takes, who knows, but infinity divided by anything is still infinity, which is the ultimate price for Bitcoin. Now back to our original scenario. 20-year-old young kid finds out about Bitcoin. He's already done the whole meme coin thing and lost all his money doing that. And then he did 100x leverage trading and lost all his money doing that. But his grandma just gave him another check. And he's saying, you know what? I think I'm going to learn my lessons. This time we'll just hodl some Bitcoin for the long term. Now he plans on working at a job that he enjoys until he's 65 and then wants to retire off of his Bitcoin. Let's take a look at that scenario. So first things first, he's retiring at 65. And I should say that we can decide how much we want to make per year. But the average income in the US for 2024 per year was $62,000. Now let's say we want to live baller style, double that, $120,000. Which means roughly $10,000 a month. And since, the assumption is we're not paying taxes on any of this, then that's $10,000 a month. That's a lot of money. You could spend a lot doing that. So in that scenario, retire at 65, the fourth line, which is $125,000 a year, we follow that 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we follow this all the way back until 20. And this is kind of hard where all the lines intersect, but it is a brain exercise. And if we take a look, it comes right down to here. Now, you can see this is 1, this is 2, and less than 2.5. So it's roughly 0.22 Bitcoin. Pretty freaking crazy for that young child. Now, right now, that's roughly $22,000, which is a lot, but his grandma gave him a big check. And besides, he's blowing way more than that going to university for a degree that he's not going to use at all. So 0.22 Bitcoin, or roughly $22,000, would enable him to retire on a double normal salary. Now, granted, if he was to go all the way down to the lowest salary, that's less than that's 0.15 Bitcoin, and he can make $50,000 a year from that. So, which is just about the average. So that's scenario 1. And if he wants longer than that, like going to 75 to retire, he only needs 0.1 Bitcoin. Because remember what I said, infinity divided by 21 million is still infinity. Which brings us to scenario 2. Now you're 30, you got your student debt, you got a job that you really don't enjoy that much, and you find out about, because you're not doing work at your job, you find out about this FIRE revolution. You're like, I want to be financially independent and retire early. But realistically, maybe you can do it by 55 because you're not that motivated and you don't really do any work. You just consume content mostly. And so in that scenario, let's say you were going to retire at 55, a little early, and you're 30 now. Let's take a look at that. So retire at 55. Again, the fourth line, 1, 2, 3, 4. We file this back to 30. And interestingly enough, if we can do this, my goodness, this is hard. We take a look right here, which we go 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't even see that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Was that? About 0.5 Bitcoin. How about that for you can retire in 25 years with 0.5 Bitcoin. Now I know some of you are like, but I want to retire this year. Well, too bad. You should have bought Bitcoin 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You could have done that, no problem. Which brings us on to the next scenario. Someone approaching retirement, 50 years old, they realize they don't have enough in their nest egg yet, especially when, on average, the S&P gets 10%, and right now on average, inflation gets 7 to 15%. So it's growing at 0. So they decide, hey, how many Bitcoin do I need? I got 15 years left. 50, going to retire at 65, want to be able to retire and enjoy life a little bit with my 2 hip replacements and all that fun stuff you get at 65. So again, retiring 65, fourth line up, we take this all the way back to 50, which is right here. It turns out that is just above 1 Bitcoin. I would say that's like 1.2 Bitcoin at most. 1.2 Bitcoin at most. So that's $120,000, which is interesting because $120,000 would not allow you to retire with very much in the S&P 500. But apparently, $120,000 would allow you to retire with Bitcoin. And it should be noted that clearly this is not financial advice. Even here, they say disclaimers, this is not financial advice. This is not a suggestion that you should sell your Bitcoin. So all of those things aside, you need to find a wise financial advisor before you do this because this is all just speculation. But again, I did study physics and basic math. Infinity divided by anything is still infinity. So, which brings us to our last scenario. Okay, you're going to retire at 65. You're already 60. You see horizon or retirement on the horizon. There's no choices. Kind of a last-ditch effort. You've saved up nothing, and 5 years from now, you're going to retire, which is forced retirement, meaning they're kicking you out of the company in 5 years. And if you don't have enough to retire on, you're pretty much screwed. So let's take a look at that scenario. Again, the fourth line, retiring at 65. And we just trace this back to 60, which is pretty close. This line right here. Well, if we take a look, that's 1, 2, 3.5 Bitcoin you would need, which is still a lot, a large sum, but $350,000 to retire on and retire really well. With you pay 300, and I mean it's kind of mind-bending. You pay $350,000 for Bitcoin now, and then you're going to get $120,000 a year for Bitcoin starting 5 years from now. That's pretty freaking rad. So, anyways, that's all for this episode. If you did enjoy this, I will post a link to this. What is this? This image on Twitter down in the comments. And also there's a playlist up there of 2025 crypto price predictions. We called the XRP 5X price pump the exact price it hit 4 months before it actually happened. So check out that playlist up there. I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one. Love you. Peace.
If you don't think Bitcoin's going to $1 million a coin and then $10 million a coin, you're already a loser.
From now on, if you don't own Bitcoin, you're a moron.